How is ICE seen right now by the voting public?
Yeah, it's a very different picture from what we saw in term number one for Donald Trump at this point. And you could just see this in terms of, take a look at ICE's net favor rating during Trump's terms. You know, you go back to July of 2018, among all voters, they had a positive net favorable rating at +1. But look at this massive decline now. We're talking about minus 20 points. So we're talking about a 21-point decline among all voters. And that is being driven in large part by independents. Again, just look at these declines here. Among independents in term one at this point for Donald Trump, ICE's net favorable rating was -3. Not so great, but not terrible either. Look at this number now. It's negative 42 points. That's a nearly 40-point decline on the net favorable rating of ICE right now compared to where we were in term number one for Donald Trump at this point. And this is just a real sign that the voters and independents are seeing what's happening on the ground, and the actions of ICE are having consequences in the court of public opinion, especially among independents.
All right. We should note this happened in Maine, where we've been talking about a Senate race there every day. This is a state where there's a lot of politics, a lot of campaigning going on. And what are people saying about whether they want their government, their local government, to be cooperating with us?
Yeah, you know, I think this is the real question, right? There have been all of these battles between the local governments and whether or not they're going to allow ICE to enforce their immigration policies. And just look at these numbers. Again, we're talking about actions having consequences in the court of public opinion. Local governments must cooperate with ICE. You know, you go back to June of 2025, the majority of Americans, 51% said yes, just 45% said no. These numbers have flipped. These numbers have flipped over the last year. Look at this. Now, 53% of voters say that, in fact, no, local governments do not, in fact, need to cooperate with ICE, compared to this 46% who say yes. So ICE's net favor rating is having big changes in terms of, and big consequences in terms of how Americans and how voters are viewing whether or not their local government should cooperate with ICE. And of course, Donald Trump and the federal government say, yes, you must. But the voters are saying, actually, no, you don't need to anymore.
And of course, immigration was an issue the president has run on 3 times for president of the United States. One of his stronger issues heading into this presidency. Where is he now?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, trust on immigration. This was one of the pillars of Donald Trump's first campaign back in 2016, winning that Republican primary. He had a massive advantage in terms of, you know, immigration, trusting Trump on immigration. Back in November of 2024, when he won that second term, 53% of Americans said yes, just 46% said no. Look at this number now. Again, a massive change in the court of public opinion. Now, 58% of Americans say no. They do not, in fact, trust Trump on immigration. Just 41% say yes. So what we're seeing with ICE is finding its way to the Trump administration at large, to Trump at large. No longer is this pillar of Donald Trump's support something he can count on anymore. The American people have simply lost the trust, or Donald Trump has lost the trust of the American people on immigration.
How's the president doing on foreign policy?
Bad. I mean, you know, he came into office, during the campaign, I'm going to end the wars. Well, the wars aren't ending, and if anything, we're adding to them. And you can just see it right here. I mean, Trump and foreign policy in 2024 versus Kamala Harris. Foreign policy was a strength for this president. He was trusted more in foreign policy than Kamala Harris by a 10-point margin. Among independents, he was trusted more by 14 points. Come over to this side of the screen. The net approval now on foreign policy in 2026. Down he goes, right into the Strait of Hormuz. Look at this. 22 points in the negative direction, a minus 22-point net approval rating. That is a drop of over 30 points. And among independents, he is now at minus 30 points. You know, I love those notes at the bottom of the screen, Johnny B. So that is a movement of 44 points among independents. Foreign policy, which was a strength for this president during the 2024 campaign, has become a weakness for him here in 2026, leading up to this midterm campaign.
This may be because of Iran, but the president said he was going to end the Russian war on Ukraine in one day.
Yeah, he said he was going to end it in one day. Well, I don't know about you, but here in reality, the war is still going on, and obviously that has been in the news very much recently, and you could see it right here, Trump and the Russia-Ukraine war. Look at this, in 2024, again, it was a strength for him. Slightly more trusted than Kamala Harris by 2 points. You come over to this side of the screen. Again, the net approval, the shift very much in the negative direction. Down he goes, now at minus 19 points. That's a 20-point switcheroo. And among independents, we're talking about a shift from plus 7 points, them trusting Donald Trump more on the Russia-Ukraine war, to now his net approval rating, negative 36 points. Again, over a 40-point shift away from the President of the United States. Again, foreign policy, which was such a strength for this president during the 2024 campaign against Kamala Harris, has become an anchor for his presidency. We're talking foreign policy at large. We're also talking about Russia-Ukraine war.
On Iran, what direction are his numbers moving right now?
Yeah, you know what? They started in the negative and they become more negative. I mean, look, Trump's net approval rating on Iran, in March it was minus 19 points. You talk about here, look at this. Again, you start in the negative at minus 19 points. You say it can't get any worse. It absolutely has gotten worse. We're talking now minus 28 points, a shift again of about 10 points in the negative direction from an already low point. And I'm not thinking that the rising gas prices will help him out very much.
Let's talk about rising gas prices here, because that's been really a big factor when you talk about consumer sentiment here. And gas prices have decreased. They did decrease.
They did.
They started to creep up again. What are the prediction markets saying? How do people feel like they're going to go over the next few weeks?
Yeah, you look at the prediction markets, you know, that was, we had seen some slight increases in Trump's approval rating, still very negative, but slight increases as the gas prices went down. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that upward trend and the slight upward trend, Trump's net approval rating, starts going down again, because chance gas prices in July rise above $4 a gallon. July 12th, just a few days ago, was a 32% chance according to the casualty production market. That is more than doubled, up to a 75% chance now, going in the wrong direction, and that means Trump's net approval rating will likely follow.
That is a very quick change there. You can see the sentiment there shifting.
Consumer inflation did improve in June, but did Trump's numbers among Americans improve along with it?
No, not really. I mean, look, the inflation numbers may be coming down from very high levels, but the American people aren't moving along with those levels. You could just see it right here. I mean, take a look at the trend here. Trump's net inflation on inflation, look at this. In January of 2025, he was at minus 6 points. Then he hit rock bottom in May of 2026, according to the Ipsos poll. He's at minus 50 points. Did he improve? Yeah, maybe a tiny bit at minus 47 points. But the bottom line is the long-term trend for Donald Trump's net approval rating on inflation is down, down, down. These are numbers that wreck presidencies. These are numbers that Republicans do not want to see going into a midterm election. Even if this slightly lower number holds, you can bet that Republicans would be in for a whole heck of a lot of pain come November.
All right, I love it when you take us back in history and give us comparisons. So compare these numbers with other presidents.
Yeah, okay, so you see this minus 47, right? How does that sort of put its place in history? It's historically bad at this point in a presidency. I mean, just take a look here. Net approval rating on inflation about this time in a presidency. Jimmy Carter, of course, inflation ruined his presidency. He was down there at minus 44 points. How about Joe Biden? According to the Ipsos poll in June of 2022, look at this. He was at minus 43 points. Who takes the cake at the worst, at least according to Ipsos? Take a look there. Donald John Trump at minus 47 points. All these numbers are bad. They're all in the same neighborhood. They're sort of within the margin of error of each other. But if you're looking at these two numbers and you understand history and you understand how inflation impacts presidencies, you do not want to be, if you're Donald John Trump, in the brotherhood with Joe Biden and Jimmy Carter on inflation, because inflation ruined their presidencies. And unless this number improves, and given that the gas prices seem to be climbing higher again, it probably won't. That means, as I said, a whole heck of a lot of pain for Republicans come the midterms.
There is a fallout. The Iran war starting up again.
Yes.
That means prices go up. Then people get pissed. Sorry, for lack of a better word. I know your mother's not happy with that.
Okay.
One last thing.
She loves you.
You know, a lot of people, and I love her back, a lot of people will look at this and say, hey, look, the world has been dealing with inflation. America is dealing with the same thing. Like, what's the big deal? What are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, just take a look here. Inflation the past year, the rest of the G7 average, look at that, 2.5%. The United States CPI, even worse at 3.5%. I'll note that Joe Biden in his final year inflation, the CPI was 3%. We are still at a worse level right now than Joe Biden saw in his final year. No wonder the American people are pissed off.